Alrighty, so this is the ritual bit of any Facebook Live where we have to say, are we live? Are we live? Is anyone out there? Can anyone see me? God damn, what's going on? Well, I'm just going to take it as read that I am, having appropriately delayed. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Andy Sayers. I'm your friendly resident sales guy. I not only coach clients how to get more clients at higher fees and more efficiently. I also practice what I preach, and I also do some closing work for clients. Why do I do that? Well, I really enjoy it, but there's another reason outside of making more money, and it is to do with staying current, because it's all very well coaching people on what has worked before, but we're in changing times, and what that's telling us is that we need to adapt with it. So what worked last year certainly isn't working now. And to a certain extent, what was working last month is being challenged by the stuff that we've got going on. So what are the things that I'm seeing right now? So the first thing is call resistance. So if you're familiar with the term sales resistance, at any point where you get, even remotely pushy, any point you get remotely pushy, people kind of get defensive, and rightly so. But right now, when you're trying to transition people onto a call, people are kind of digging their heels in a little bit more. There are lots of people being really, really pushy in the messaging and in the general approach, trying to pull people through onto calls, and people are rightly kind of going, well, I don't really know who you are, I don't really know what you do. So what does that tell us? It means that we have to take our time, take a step back. The concept of nurturing, getting to know people, taking a genuine interest. This may mean that we have to do quality over quantity. I think it could be argued that that should be the case all along, right? Understand who it is you're talking to, actually take an interest, and let that hopping onto a call element wait for a moment and let it maybe happen naturally, and have people maybe even say, hey, I'd like to know more, rather than trying to drag them kicking and screaming onto the call. Because what's then happening is that even if you are dragging people on, it's having an effect on show rates. Okay, so there's nothing worse than thinking you've got a calendar full of calls and opportunity to then be sat on Zoom talking to yourself, pretty much as I am now, and it's depressing, right? You think, okay, this is good. It's going to be a really profitable week, only to be left hanging. It's really, really not where you want to be. So when it comes to the show rate element, we then need to look at the levers that we can pull to try and get people there. Now, one of the things that you may have heard Lewis talk about, amongst the many things that Lewis talks about, is around pre-call information. So what happens between the booking of the call and the call itself? This is your opportunity to get some really important information in front of people, to potentially give them things to do, start to get them invested in the process, to start to feed them information about what it is you do, the level of services, the fact that it's a premium offering, which means that there may even be a premium price tag attached to that, so that when you do that price drop, there isn't that sound like someone's been punched in the stomach that we all know and love, right? So that pre-call, ever more important, as are things like confirmations and reminders. However, it should also be said, you don't need to go completely bonkers with that. Okay, so sometimes it's not necessarily less is more, but you've got to be careful. Find that line between helpful reminders and just kind of hounding somebody and getting on people's nerves. So that's kind of for you to work out in your niche and with the people that you're pulling on the calls. But you kind of have to help people get there. Not everybody lives managed by a calendar. So sometimes people forget, sometimes life takes over. And just because it's super important for us that they're there, doesn't mean it's the number one priority for them at that point in time. So it's always useful when people use the reschedule link, right? And don't leave us hanging. But no shows are always a fact of life, but we can do things that are going to help ourselves in the process. So lastly, on this one, we know that we're in challenging times. Depending on where you are in the world, I don't know how much kind of fear, uncertainty, and doubt that you're being fed. But certainly for most UK audiences, it's a case of inflation's going mental, interest rates are going up. There seems to be a whole feeling of lack of control. Lots of things to worry about right now. That's kind of feeding through into reticence when it comes to spend, or the concept of spending, for a lot of people. Now, this isn't everybody, right? And it's very easy to kind of get dragged along with this way of thinking, which is, nobody's buying anything right now. It's times are tight. I need to drop my prices and all that sort of stuff. And I would just remind you that people always find the money for things that they want. Okay, so I don't know how many of you have been out in the town centres, and you've been in bars and restaurants and stuff like that. Excuse me, it's not somewhere I normally am, but I have been out a bit more recently, and I'm amazed at how busy places are. You go to the supermarket, the car park is absolutely rammed. You go to the retail centres, absolutely rammed. A train down to London a few weeks ago, absolutely rammed. The city centre, packed. Bars and restaurants, packed. People find the money. And for those of you in the US, and for everyone else that likes to celebrate the what do you call it, Black Friday, around Thanksgiving, that's coming up. There are going to be people that are telling you they've got no money right now. They're going to spend a ridiculous amounts of money on stuff that may not serve them particularly well, over and above your services that could actually be life-changing for them, depending on what you do, right? So we have to kind of go in forewarned is forearmed, and we have to be prepared to give a fresh perspective. We have to be prepared to call people out on what they say is important to them and what are priorities for them. I mean, each to their own. But if someone's telling you they can't afford what is actually a small amount of money, and you know full well that person's going to go and spend $1,000 on a flat screen TV, which 10 minutes later is going to be worth really not a lot, and they're just replacing another perfectly good flat screen TV in the process. These are the things that we can have conversations around and let people know what they are actively choosing to do. Because it's not just about choosing not to proceed with a particular service or with a particular person. They're choosing to stay stuck with their current situation and all of the problems that they may well have shared with you. So more and more, does it boil down to being able to get good at objection handling? Yeah, I think there is a big part of that. However, it also boils down to understand the fears, the uncertainties, and being able to break people out of what has become a habitual model for them in terms of behavior. And with that in mind, sometimes there's this concept of, you're not so much overcoming the objection, but you're overcoming the person. Because just the way they operate just isn't serving them. Depending on your niche, whether it's life or whether it's business, the way they're operating, and the reason they're on a call with you right now at that point in time is because it isn't working. Or they're trying to, they're here and they want to be able to level up. They want to be able to achieve more, get more, fix a problem. More often we know that people are more motivated to get away from a problem than they are towards a solution. But we have to work this out, understand the motivations, and help people make positive decisions that are going to serve them now and in the medium and long term, right? So the game is changing, but there is still an awful lot to play for. It's still absolutely possible to sell high ticket. It's absolutely possible to be selling it in one call. And don't be afraid if it does go to a second call. You haven't failed. I will say this though, that first opportunity, when they're there in front of you, that's sometimes you have to treat that like it's your only opportunity, because we know that the dropout rate between first and second call is huge. And you can very often just be kissing that person goodbye. And sometimes it just takes working through the issues just for that a little bit longer, even though it feels uncomfortable. Just hang in there. And it's not so much us working through it, it's helping them to work through the issues so that they can make a positive decision. So at the end of the day, we should be trying to serve these people. And if they've got a problem that we know that we can help fix, and it's a problem that is only going to get worse and it's going to impact them, their lives, their business, the people around them, I always think that we have a duty to do everything that we can to try and move that person out of their own way. We don't want to be upsetting people, we don't want to be manipulating people, but we do want to be completely honest about what's going on, what the situation is if they stay put, and what's potentially available to them if they make that move. Because that thing they want is just over there. And to get it, they have to take a small step forward, right? So let's help them find the conditions that enable them to take that first step. Now, there are lots of things that we can do around this and how we can frame it, and lots of tools and levers that we'll look at another time. I think I've probably gone on long enough. If you've got any questions about this stuff, you're running into challenges on your sales calls, or you're not getting people onto calls in the first place, drop a message in the group. Feel free to send me a message directly, and I will do my best to come back to you within good time. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll catch you soon. Take care.